o Expresso Consciência, the podcast where science meets business decisions. My name is Liliane. I'm a sustainability director, AI architect, and founder of Smart Cycle. At Smart Cycle, we help companies in agriculture, energy, and industry understand where they stand before regulation becomes a barrier to grow and turn that into a competitive advantage. And if is this the kind of conversation you want to keep following, like science, AI, sustainability, regulation, and decision making, make sure to follow our channel and visit the link in the description to learn more about our work. And if you want to understand what the regulations mean for your company and what you need to adapt, where your gaps are, and what comes first, this is exactly what a Smart Cycle Diagnostic is for. So the link is also in the description. Today, we are talking about the Digital Product Passport, or DPP. So DPP is a new European Union requirement that will make products information more traceable, accessible, and connected across to entire product life cycle. For materials and original to performance, repair, reuse, recycle, and environmental impact. And although this starts in Europe, it will also affect markets, supply chain, and industries around the world. I really like the passport analogy because it makes the concept very clear. When we travel, for example, a passport does not tell our full life story, but it carries the essential information that allow us to cross borders. And the digital product passport does something similar for products. It carries the information a product needs to move through markets, regulations, supply chain, and even its second life with more transparency. And I think this is where many companies underestimate the change. DPP is not only asking what is your product, it is asking where it comes from, what is made of, who touched it before it reached the market, what evidence supports it claims, and what can happen if to it after use. So the passport forces the company to look at the full journey of the product, not only the moment of the sale. And for companies, for example, in agriculture, energy, and also industry, especially those connected to European markets, this is not just the compliance topic. No, it's becoming a market access and competitiveness topic. That is such an important point because many companies confuse having suppliers with knowing their supply chain. And these are two very different things. Like a company may know its director supplier, like tier 1, but tier 2 is the supplier of the supplier, and tier 3, it's one step further. The farm, the mine, the facility, or the company providing the raw material at the beginning of the chain. So make an analogy. It's like knowing who delivered the cake to your table, but not knowing who produced the flour, where the eggs come from, or whether the ingredients match what you promise, So that is where the real traceability challenge begins. And this is also where sustainability becomes a strategy, because when you understand where the data is missing, you understand where the risk, the cost, and the opportunities are. And the surprise is almost always like the same. The data exists in somewhere, but no one has ever connected it. This is precisely where DPP becomes uncomfortable in a good way, because it forces companies to stop assuming and start verifying. Many businesses have documents, have certificates, they have supplier questionnaires, they have internal spreadsheets, but documentation, it's not the same as traceability. Traceability means you can connect the information, validate it, update it, and explain where it comes from. So it's like having a medical record fully of test results, but no diagnosis. You know, the data exists, but without a process to read it, connect it, and act on it, it tells you basically nothing. So, and worst, it gives you a false sense of security. So with DPP, the false security becomes visible. And this is why I think the real challenge is not only collecting more data, it's a creating process where the right data can move between suppliers, manufacturers, regulators, and customers in a way that is reliable and verifiable, you know. Also, I can see these kind of examples at Smart Cycle when we work with companies on compliance and data readiness. The first questions we ask is not what tool do you need? It's the right question is, do you understand your process well enough to improve it? Because the answers will change everything. If you automate a broken process, you just make the mistake happen faster, you know? So for me, the real opportunity is to use science, data, and AI to act at the cause of the problem, not only to mitigate the damage later. And this is why circularity matters. You know, nature does not work in straight lines; it works in cycles. And the more our industrial systems can understand materials, energy, waste, and also product life as a connected cycles, the more resilient and competitive they will become. So think of it as a medical diagnosis. The exam gives you the data, the doctor will interpret it, but the patient is the one who knows, who has to decide to change the diet, the routine, the treatment. So the exam basically is the data, but your action about it, it will make the big difference. So data without decision is basically just information, no? And this is where many companies hesitate, because changing a supplier, redesign a material, adjusting a manufacturing process, or rethink end of life is not just a sustainability decision. It affects cost, it affects operations, procurement, product design, risks, and also market access. In my work with companies, when I see most often is that they have more data than they think, but no process connected this data to decisions. So sustainability strategy is not about having these more indicators, but it's about knowing which decision those indicators should change. And this is also where AI, for example, becomes useful, not as a replacement for leadership, but as a way to connect regulation, company data, and also operational decisions faster, basically. So, for example, if a new regulation requires proof of origin, AI can help identify which data is missing, which supplier needs to be connected, which documents need validation, and where the company has also the highest risk. So, but the strategic decision it still belongs to the company. You know, AI can show the gap, but leadership decides what to do with that. With that. So, and also it brings us to the full life cycle of a product, because if companies are now responsible not only for how a product is made, but also for how it is used, repaired, reused, recycled, and also recovered, then production and consumption cannot be treated as separate words anymore. Because it makes one thing clear: a product does not stop existing when it's sold. For a long time, companies treated production and consumption as two separate words. The company produced it, sold, delivered, and after that, the product becomes someone else's problem. But circularity changes this logic. If a product can be repaired, reused, remanufactured, recycled, or transformed into a new material, then the company needs to understand the full life cycle, not just the production phase. And this is where DPP becomes very powerful, no, not just a regulation that we need to comply, because it gives the difference, actually gives the different people access to different layers of information. A supplier may need material composition, a manufacturer may need performance and compliance data, a repair center may need technical instruction, a recycler may need to know how to separate component safety. So, and also the consumer may need to understand the impact, the durability, and the end of life options. So DPP is not only this label, it's the data layer actually that helps the product move through this life cycle with less also waste and more value, and also better decisions about this product. And that is where adaptation becomes financially easier to justify, because when companies see where materials are lost, where energy is wasted, where a product could have a second life, this circularity it becomes operational efficiency. This is where circularity becomes practical, because if no one knows what the product is made of, or how it was assembled, or how it can be repaired, then reuse and recycling become more so much harder, and or even impossible. But when that information is structured, the product can have a second life, and it can return to the system as value, not as waste. And this is also where companies start to see the business case as better than data reduce waste, reduce cost, improve efficiency, support compliance, and open new market opportunities. But of course, not every sector has the same challenge. DPP also mentioned these kind of sectors that are more affected and others are less affected. That is a critical point, and it connects it directly to something I see often, because DPP is deeply sector specific, because every product has a different life cycle, a different risk profile, and a different kind of data that really matters. And also, battery is not a textile, a tire is not a medical device. So some problems that may affect one will not affect other sectors. So some products have a short life, and others stay in a market for years. Some carry high safety risks, and others carry high material, energy, or end-of-life risks. So the question is not only if the companies will have the digital product passport, but what does this product need to prove? And this is where tools like life cycle assessment or end-of-life analysis, energy efficiency mapping, and even digital twins become very useful to help companies understand the specific reality of each product category. Because reducing this impact will not be just using this product less. Sometimes it's about changing the energy source of this product. Sometimes it's about redesign the material. Sometimes it's about making repair easier. Sometimes it's about creating a better recovery process at this end of life. So DPP forces companies to stop treating sustainability as a generic checklist, to start asking more precise questions about each product, you know? And this leads me to something I see often. Some companies believe they are already prepared because they have documentation, quality systems, or internal reports. But having documents, it's not the same as being DPP ready. And this is one of the biggest traps. Many companies are not starting from zero. They already have a quality document, safety reports, supplier forms, technical sheets, certification, sustainability reports, and also internal database. But the problem is that this information is usually fragmented. Sometimes it's a lot of different kind of the departments. This is precisely where companies need to stop looking to each regulation as a separate emergency, like DPP here, EU they are there, PPWR somewhere else, CSRD in another department. So this is our four regulation. And actually, they are four of the most relevant European Union sustainability regulation right now. And many companies are treating them as four separate projects. When companies do that, they create four different teams, four different spreadsheets, four different versions of the same problem. But underneath of all these regulations, there are one common question. Can we prove what you say? Basically, okay, now you give me this data, but can you prove it? Can you prove it where this material come from? Can you prove it how the product was made? Can you prove the impact of that? Can you prove the chain of a responsibility? So the real challenge is the governance, and it's where companies can save a lot of time and money and also confusion. Because instead of building one process for DPP and another one for EUDR, they can start building one traceability intelligence system that supports multiple regulations. I think this is the gap most companies are facing right now. And this is also the mindset behind also my Smart Cycle. We do not want companies to react regulations for one deadline at a time. We want them to understand the system, organize the data, and make better decisions before the regulations become a barrier to grow. And this is the point where companies need to become more mature about compliance, because compliance is becoming an operating system for how the company understands its materials, suppliers, products, and also risks. And when the data is fragmented, every regulation feels like a new crisis. No, but when the data is structured, the company can respond faster, more make better decisions and reduce also the cost of compliance over time. And this is where AI becomes very interesting, because AI does not replace the need for good data governance, but it can help companies build it faster. Think about a company that has, I don't know, 50 or 100 or 300 suppliers. Each supplier sends information in a different format. Some answer by email, some send PDFs, some use spreadsheets, and some do not answer at all. So, and then the internal team has to collect it, compare, validate, follow up, and organize all of these before a deadline. So this is not the process. This is a whole with a spreadsheet. And this is where AI can help to transform this into a workflow. No, it can ask the right questions with the right suppliers, identify missing evidence, flag inconsistencies, organize documents, and help to the team understand where the real gaps are. But it also depends the validation process, and the goal is not to remove people from the process. The goal is to move people from chasing information to making decisions. We often talk about AI as if it starts with the technology, but in reality, it starts with the process. If the data is fragmented, if the responsibility is unclear, if suppliers are not engaged, AI will not solve the problem. AI will simply give you a faster version of the same confusion. And I think that is why many companies are still discussing spreadsheets while everyone else is discussing artificial intelligence, because before you automate a process, you need to understand the process. And also before you scale a system, you need this system. And I see sustainability as a strategy with this, because when we scale a system that is not sustainable, we are not producing good cycles and good process. So for me, that is the most important thing about sustainability right now. Sustainability must be in this structure of construction of new systems. So because we need to construct sustainable systems, and then scale them with AI. And also we can use AI to do this kind of system. What excites me is that AI can help companies build that foundation much faster than before. And it also can help identify missing information, structure data, validate documents, and support decision. But also it still needs a clear architecture behind it. And this is the most important part, like to have a good AI architecture. I think this is the crucial part, and that's why some companies are not seeing good results with AI. It's not because of AI; it's because the architecture behind it. Otherwise, we are just automating our uncertainty. One of the biggest mistake companies make is trying to scale before they structure. If your process still depends on disconnected spreadsheets, emails, or manual follow-ups, adding AI will not solve the problem. It will help to reach the wrong answer faster, basically. So the companies that will benefit most from AI are those ones with the clearest process, basically. Also in Smart Cycle, we often say that AI should not be the first step. The first step would be understanding your data, your supply chain, and your decision-making process. Then AI should be the accelerator of that. So once the foundation exists, AI can help collect information, validate evidence, identify gaps, and even anticipate risks before they become compliance issues. And I think there is something here that often gets misunderstood about AI. AI is not this magical tool that suddenly creates traceability, transparency, or trust. AI will amplify what already exists. And if the process is clear, AI can accelerate it. If the data is structured, AI can help to scale. If the governance is strong, AI can support better decisions. But the first step is always human, especially with this transition to AI. After we have this transition, maybe our system is going to be better. But from now, our system has not a very clear process. So information is going to be missing. And these missing informations, AI cannot process. So AI will process informations based on the data you give to AI. So, but if you do not give the correctly data, AI cannot invent it. So basically, this transition, the first step is going to be human for now, and someone has to decide that the transparency matters. Someone has to map the supply chain. Someone has to define what evidence is needed and also why. Only then does technology becomes useful. And what excites me most about DPP is that it creates a reason for different teams to finally work together. And for years, sustainability, procurement, operational compliance, also product design and finance often work it in a separate conversations. And now they are being asked to solve the same problem. And that changed the discussion completely. And this is where I see also the real transformation. When, for example, a CFO understands that a significant part of their material inputs will require documented original data, DPP stop being a compliance checkbox and becomes a capital allocation question. This is the point. When you start to understand that this is a capital allocation question, we'll make different kind of questions like which supplier do we invest to helping to digitalize? Or, for example, which materials do we reformulate to reduce traceability risk? Or which markets are we building toward, for example? So these are not just sustainability questions, they are strategic questions and financial ones. So this is exactly where AI can play a role that goes far beyond document management, because when data becomes intelligent, these decisions will get better. And better decisions are what the competitiveness is also built on. So this has been one of the most important conversations I have had on this podcast, because we did not just talk about the compliance, we talk about visibility and about what becomes possible when companies finally understand what their processes are made of, where they came from, and what they can also become. This is the real promise of digital product passports, not just better reports, but better decision. And the companies that will benefit most from this transition will not be the ones collecting the most data. They will be the ones turning data into intelligence, and also this intelligence into action. So for everyone who is listening, and if this conversation made you wonder whether your company is ready to do DPP, EUDR, or also PPWR, or the next wave of sustainability regulations, we will start understanding where you stand today. So if you want to know what that means specifically for your company, what you need to adapt and where your gaps are, and what comes actually first, so visit our website. I will let the website in the description of this video. So you just click on the link, and then there we will have all the information about what we were talking on this podcast. And thank you to everyone who joined us today, and see you in the next episode.